Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming. I think we have a lot of great content for you all today, and we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. First of all, I'd like to start with introductions. I'm John Oakley. I'm the CEO of Tyga. Tyga is a business intelligence company focused on convenience store and gas station operators. Our platform, StoreKeep, solves the big data challenges of running a C-store operation so that we can tell you your data story. And at the highest level, we do that in three parts. StoreKeep integrates with all the vital systems at your stores and your home office, things like point of sale, automatic tank gauges, back office, etc. Collecting all the vital information from transaction full level basket details, price book, inventory, fuel, compliance information. And from there, we securely transmit that into our cloud environment where it's instantaneously organized and categorized to the NAC standard, so we can get everyone talking on in the same language. Then we make it understandable to each one of the roles within your operations, whether that's retail ops folks, category management, fuel, maintenance, or compliance. And we do that through intelligent dashboards and real-time alerts that allows each role to focus on and dig into the things that are important to help them be successful, efficient, and ultimately help your organization become more profitable and productive. I'm so pleased today to be joined by Slaton Whatley of Whatley Oil. Slaton is a customer of Taiga's, and they operate the Zelmo zip-in stores across Georgia and Alabama. Slaton, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, John. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, how about you just take a few moments, kind of tell me a little, tell us all a little bit more about yourself and about Whatley Oil.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and hopefully get to share some of the successes we've had with Tyga. But we are a 12-store operator based in Columbus, Georgia. As you mentioned, we do have stores. We're right on the Georgia-Alabama border, so we've got stores in both states. But we started in 1955 as actually as a Standard Oil operator before slowly transitioning to be a Chevron jobber. And just over 20 years ago, we really stepped into the retail side of things. So we had owned some convenience stores, obviously worked with a lot of dealer locations as a jobber. But 20 years ago, we actually jumped kind of headfirst into retail operations. So we have 12 locations now. We just opened our 12th and newest one here in Columbus. We're really excited about that one. It's branded Zelmos from inside all the way out to the pumps. First time we've done something like this. And we're actively growing, and Tyga has played a really important role in that for us, making us feel much more comfortable with the information that we have. But yeah, we're again a 12-store retailer based here in Columbus, Georgia.
That's really great. Really so excited to help you be involved in your growth, and I can see great things for you guys. So I guess along with that, can you tell us a little bit more about some of the technology systems you have that you work with on a daily basis, your organization?
Yeah. We have really, I think, in the last 2 to 3 years, made some pretty big leaps. Not necessarily leaps beyond anyone, probably more leaps to catch up with everything. So recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, we've introduced a central price book, which was a huge deal for us to be able to set, control retail costs from one central location instead of having to kind of communicate that and check in on that in 12 different locations. So that's been a really big jump for us. But as far as hardware and software, we run primarily Verifone point of sale systems, dresser weighing pumps. That's what we have across the board at our locations. And then we run some pretty basic back office softwares, which fortunately y'all have been able to integrate really well with. But we do run Verifone commanders at 10 of our 12 locations. So we're pretty consistent with hardwares across the board, which I think has made the implementation a little bit easier.
Yeah, always makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from your perspective, and managing retail operations, what problems were you trying to solve when you found Tyga and Storekeep?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing, and I feel like I talked to a lot of people about this that either didn't care or probably weren't relevant, but it was so top of mind for me at all times was our inability to be able to quickly pull sales data. So previous to this, the only way that I could get data, we had it, it just lived at the local level. So I'd
Hmm.
have to actually remotely dial into 12 locations, run reports, save reports, email reports to me, and then try to take those 12 Excel sheets and get them into one central location so we could start trying to make sense of the data. So our biggest problem was how do we get the data that we know we have
Hmm.
quickly and easily, and also in a format that we can understand and use, and we're not spending hours and hours trying to kind of make heads of tails of what we're looking at. That was our biggest issue was we knew the data was there, we just didn't know how to get it and how to get it quickly.
Right.
So we have gone from that and at most recent using 24-hour-old data to now working with data that at its oldest is 1 minute old. So a pretty big leap for us as far as real-time data goes. But that was really our biggest challenge when we started going out into the market and trying to find a partner. And then the other big issue for us was trying to find someone we could work with that really kind of integrated with what we already had. Us kind of internally going and selling the idea of a totally new back office package or new register systems was probably not going to happen. So looking for a partner that kind of operated within the systems that we already had was complementary to what we already had. And that was a really big draw for us to Tyga.
Yeah. Uh, how about you speak a little bit to the audience about um, uh, how your technology roadmap has evolved? What kind of ways we've been able to help you accelerate this plan? Specifically, like you and I have talked before about your data collection and how important the NACS category standards have been to you.
Yeah, I think I don't know if any of us here fully understood how valuable the NACS categorization was going to be for us. We do have categories that exist again, kind of in our back office package in our price book computer, but they are our categorizations, and oftentimes they're very big. So one, for example, is grocery, but that's probably 80% of what's in our stores falls into this category. So when we'd have a vendor come in and want to talk about how's your salty snack category doing, we were like, I can tell you how our grocery category is doing. So the ability for us to see NACS categorizations and speak the same language as our vendors was huge for us. And again, I don't think we really realized how much we were missing out on not having that. So now being able to go in and understand, okay, here's where our alternative snacks category is,
Right.
and compared to maybe how that category is doing across the country. Before that, it was a lot of guessing or really having to dig in on a store by store basis to understand and create essentially those categorizations ourselves, which was incredibly manual. So it has really given us the ability to work with a shared vocabulary now with our vendors, which has been huge, and given us insights into categories that in the past were kind of just lumped into a larger category at large. So it's been a really impressive and useful tool for us.
So you talked a little bit about your some of your data problems. What do you think were the biggest data problem challenges you had prior to launching with Tyga and on the Storekeep platform?
Yeah, again, I think really and truly the biggest thing was just a complete lack of data.
Yeah.
Being able to access that, really knowing how our stores were doing right now. Being able to get into Tyga and see how my stores are performing now compared to how they're performing this same day last week. Being able to look at comparative time frames and understand, okay, so far this week, where our salty snacks are down 20% compared to last week, has given us just such a good real-time insight into what the stores are doing, and it allows us to make adjustments. If, for example, we recently found out, I didn't know this, that we were having some major supplier issues with some of our energy drinks. I picked up on the fact that something was going on when I saw certain categories were down significantly at that store compared to the week before. Unfortunately, it turns out it was a supplier issue, but it has given us access into real-time data, almost like a pulse check on what's happening at each location right now. I know, John, you and I have talked a lot about this, but
Yeah.
I sometimes watch it more often than I should, but being able to auto refresh my sales across the board every minute is a really fun feature. And being able to just check in throughout the day, see how we're doing with gallons, see how we're doing with our kind of big NACS categories. How's lottery doing? How's tobacco doing today? It's just a tool that we didn't have access to prior to this. So it has gotten me much more in tune with what's happening at our stores every single day. So that kind of pulse check has been a really huge benefit to us. And I'm sorry, guys, we actually just lost power in our building, so I'm sorry that it's dark here. I'm on a laptop, so we're good. We'll persevere.
Oh, well, yeah. There's always technical issues.
Yeah, I did not expect to lose power in my entire office. I apologize.
So we talk a lot about like the impact of real time data and those sorts of things. But as we got to know each other, like can you speak to some of the big picture stuff? Like how do you feel it's changed how you operate your business? Knowing that you have these capabilities.
Yeah. So to me, the biggest thing that I think we struggled with was category management. Prior to this, we did not have a dedicated category manager, and to be honest, it was a little daunting. Didn't feel as if our options in our immediate area were that great. We had some great category managers with some of our vendors, but going out and poaching category managers from your own vendors did not feel like the route to take.
Right.
So we hired about almost a year ago now, a remote category manager. I come from a world of software and software sales, so the idea of remote work and people being all over the country was very normal to me, but not within our company now. So we went out and hired a remote category manager. That's great as long as you have good real-time dependable data. And we were making it work on some larger reset and contract negotiation projects, but it was still very clunky. So one of the biggest things that we've been able to use with this is our category manager now has real-time data, the same real-time data that I do every single day. So he's able to go in, he's based in Tennessee. He's able to go in every single day and monitor the changes that we're making. He's able to comb through all of this data and come to me with price recommendations, with reset recommendations. Whereas previously he was dependent on me sending him this data weekly or quarterly, kind of however we broke it down. So that has allowed us internally not only to have access to much more data, but now with our remote category manager, he's more effective and efficient. And our investment in him, I feel like, we're seeing much more of a return on that investment with him. So it has allowed us to really hire someone new, go outside of our immediate market here and do so with good, dependable real-time data. That's been actually a really huge thing for us to kind of equip him with.
Yeah, I'm sure he really loves his capabilities to be able to dig into all his NACS categories and brands and trademarks, like down to the individual SKUs too.
Absolutely. For him to be able to look at specific flavors of an energy drink, for example, if we do a big energy reset or a big beer reset we have coming up, hopefully in the first quarter of next year, he can go in and monitor daily what's happening at every store, what's happening across the company. So I think it's going to be a pretty invaluable tool for him, and we're going to get, I think, a much better return from working with him now.
Absolutely, yeah. So what made Tyga and StoreKeep stand out from the other options that were out there on the market for you?
Yeah, great question. So I knew of Tyga, and a few folks had reached out to me in the past, and I just kind of said, just don't have time right now. But the more I dug into it, especially sitting through our very first demo, I was blown away by how far along y'all were with things. So we had worked with a few other similar companies that were trying to kind of help us make sense of what was going on with our data. but they were in the very beginning phases. So the user interface, and not to say that, the product has to look good in order to function well, but the user interface is great. It's very intentional. It's obvious that you guys have put a lot of time and effort into that. So I was just shocked by how far along things were. And then also, again, the fact that you guys integrate with our current systems was a really big selling point for us. You weren't asking us to change our back office software. You weren't asking us to do anything. It was a very, very simple integration process. So that, working within our current constraints was huge for us. And I think once I got a glimpse at that real-time data that I had really been craving for almost 5 years, in really easy to understand formatting, I was like, this is it. We're in. And I think, John, we piloted it at 2 stores, and it didn't take long before I actually had to force myself to wait a little bit longer out of principle. But we've rolled it out to all of our stores now, and we couldn't be happier with it.
Yeah, that's great. Tell me a little bit more about that onboarding process. What was that experience like working with our onboarding and implementation teams? And
Yeah, I will say to anyone watching that if you have ever been sold a quote unquote plug and play system that turned out to be much more complicated than that, this is not the case with Tyga. It was a very, very easy install. I actually did go on site for the first 2 just because I wanted to be there, and then quickly realized I didn't need to be there. It was a very quick remote connection that we established with you guys. And by the time I got the next remote connection set up, y'all were done with the previous store. So we knocked out most of it. I was the limiting factor a few times, but we could have knocked out all of our stores within a few hours. It was a very quick integration process. The fact that it's not invasive and interrupting of our managers on a daily basis is tremendous. Most of our managers, I think, don't even think about the fact that Tyga is sitting in the background feeding this data for us at all times. So the integration and implementation was incredibly easy. Probably one of the easiest implementations of software that we've had since I've been here for 5 years. Very, very easy.
Thanks for that. I really appreciate that. But when you think about technology vendors and your experience with us, what do you think stands out as different about how we approach things and about our company and our products as a customer?
Yeah, I would go back to implementation. How far along you all are. I honestly feel like we're getting access to tools and technology that, in my mind, were always only available to the big players, those multinational chains and huge domestic chains. So I do feel like we're getting access to tools that felt far, far out of reach for us. The fact that you're solely focused on C stores, it's obvious that you and your team understand the world that we live in, the problems that we're facing. I definitely did. I never felt like you were trying to solve a problem that didn't exist. And again, being able to go in and access and organize data that most convenience stores have in some fashion, that was a really big selling point for us. So I think it sets you guys apart, how minimally invasive it is, and just how well it works. And the last thing I'll say, John, on that is just to reiterate the NACS categorization. That is not something that we had previously had experience with other vendors, or it was up to us to make sure that the product was named so perfectly across the board that it felt unachievable to us. So the fact that you guys do all the heavy lifting, that was huge. In past experiences, we were asked to do a lot of that heavy lifting. So the fact that Tyga will go in and do all that for us, I spend 2 or 3 hours to help with implementation, and then all of a sudden I have access to a portal with everything I need. Was a big change for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think we probably want to get to questions here pretty quick, but I just had one more, topic I wanted to discuss with you before we get to that. What would you say to another operator out there that is potentially considering working with Tyga, um, as far as why they should work with our company?
Yeah. If you don't have access to real-time data and you don't have a tool that allows you to walk into a vendor meeting feeling very confident about sales, I do trust all the vendors that I work with, but it's really nice to walk in with a very clear picture of what that category and their brand is doing for myself. So I'd say if you don't have access to that, and you don't have access to NACS categorization, I would really encourage you to take a look at Tyga. It just gives you, it does solves problems. It solves problems that maybe I didn't even know we had. So I would strongly encourage everybody to go and take a look at it, walk through the demo, see what's there, and don't be afraid that the implementation is going to be a 6-month process. It's more of a 6-hour process, I would say, at the most. So yeah, I would strongly encourage you to go and take a look at it and see if it's something that can help you make better business decisions.
Great. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And so I guess at this point, I think we want to move over to kind of a Q&A kind of section of the presentation here. I think some of them are probably going to be, more on me to answer, and then some of them, more in your realm there, Slaton. So maybe I'll just queue them up. I'll start talking to them, and then maybe you can add along to your experience with the same sorts of things.
Okay.
All right. So the first one we have here is, does Tyga have artificial intelligence AI capabilities like being able to detect inventory issues and forecast product demand? The answer to that question is yes. One of the things that is built into the StoreKeep platform is our ability to do all sorts of advanced artificial intelligence modeling. One of the key areas that we deal with is in that area of inventory tracking, based on the sales data that's coming through at all of your stores. And so we're actually tracking every single product in the store, how it sells, when it sells, and what time it sells across all your stores. And so we can see down to that individual item. And so I'm in the StoreKeep platform, you can see that the Bud Light isn't selling at 4 o'clock on Friday the way it should, or for some reason you're not selling coffee, during the peak time for breakfast. And we can actually send alerts to the right people in the store so they can go back and check and make sure that that item is properly faced or the coffee is made and those sorts of things. So absolutely, we do a number of different types of AI modeling that's completely built into the platform, and then it flows through into those dashboards and alerts that I talked about early on in the presentation at the introduction. Let's see. Next question. Can Tyga integrate with our ATG, automatic tank gauges? Absolutely. We have a complete fuel inventory and compliance module to our product. So within the StoreKeep platform, we're tracking everything across all the different parts of the operation stores. And of course, you can just get the fuel module, or you can get the category and sales and those sorts of things separately. But within our fuel inventory module, we're tracking everything from your inventory to the individual alerts coming off the ATGs. We have a lot of custom alerts on top of that. Like we can tell if your manifolded tanks are properly operating and those sorts of things, and send those off to the proper maintenance people, and so on. So absolutely, we do full integration with ATGs. We do full integration with point of sale systems, as well as back office systems and other products and systems you have running within your stores. And of course, they all have very similar simplified installations, just like what Slaton was talking about earlier with his experience. This is a good one for you, Slaton. How long was it after product launch before you started to see trends and insights and and historical data on those sorts of things?
Yeah, great. I was actually looking at that one.
Yeah.
I think one of the coolest parts for us was when we reminded ourselves that there was a strong AI component to this software, was actually watching things like the basket analysis. So starting to understand what products are purchased together. What was really, really fun to watch was it learning. So where at first, maybe the first 2 or 3 days, we didn't see very much, or there may only be one item, attached to that Pepsi 20 ounce, but over time, it continues to recognize those patterns and transactions for us. And it has really started growing those product basket analysis so that we can see what's being sold with what. John, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you guys actually pulled quite a bit of historical data early on. So it did take, I'd say, maybe 48 hours for us to start really seeing things. But within 48 hours, we were getting a really clear picture. And earlier than that, we were getting a really clear picture of what was happening that moment. It was some of the more historical comparative data that took a few days to start filing in. And it's still continuing to learn. So any sort of pattern that it can detect over time, it seems like it's learning more and more as we go along. But it was very quick for me to get on and see, how much have we sold today. Some of the 30, 60, 90-day comparative timeframes took a little bit longer than that, but it wasn't like it took 6 months to get 30, or 40 or 50 days worth of data. It was a pretty quick look at the historical data.
Yeah, so just to elaborate a little more, the historical data can differ depending on which systems are involved. Some some of those source systems only hold a short period of time, but typically, we're getting that in a pretty deep set of months there, and then of course we also work with any other historical data sources that you guys could have to really load in year-over-year data and those sorts of things in the cases that those aren't in those and those raw point of sale and stuff like that. Let's say, okay, this is good. Did you have to update your price book to be able to use the next categorization that we offer with Tyga?
No.
Yeah. Did you have to do anything with that?
No, we did not. And again, you're the expert here, but my understanding and again, kind of a big selling point for us is that you guys are looking at UPCs, correct, on those to identify an item. So it doesn't matter if I, name it Snickers king size fully spelled out in one store, and then for some reason it's spelled Snicker KNG size in another store. It doesn't matter. It's looking at that UPC data. So we didn't have to make any changes to how we had products named in our price book, anything like that. It's pulling that UPC information. And that was a huge plus for us because that would have been a pretty tremendous undertaking for us to do that on this end.
Yeah, it's all designed from the start to be able to pull and place things directly into those next categories. We take great pride in our depth of knowledge across all the products within the C-store or ecosystem out there, and we are within that instantaneous modeling that we do. As soon as those transactions come in, they're directly categorized right into those next categories with the trademarks and brands and all the other attributes associated with it across, as you mentioned, UPC based, but we also do a lot of other intelligence stuff on the back end there to try to figure out names and those sorts of things as well. So we take great pride in that one, and I think we've got probably one of the best, if not the best, product data sets on those standards in the industry. See. Which data sources does Tyga cover across the C-store operation, and can you name some? So we've talked a lot about transactional data here. Obviously, we're pulling full basket details from a point of sale or other back office systems and stuff like that. We also pull in price book and information and inventory sources. Where we spoke a little bit earlier on automatic tank gauges. We're obviously pulling off all the inventory, delivery, compliance, and all the sort of stuff from those. And then we're constantly adding new additional data sources to provide that full value across a whole C-store and gas station operation to give you the most value across all the different roles within your organization. See, is Tyga working with NACS so the category systems agree? Absolutely. So our current category standard that we have within Tyga is the NACS Category 7 standard, where we are also directly working to also have the NACS Category 8 standard automatically implemented as well. So once once that's done, we'll be able to offer both of those as options for it, so that those updated new categories, for whether it's like seltzers and those sorts of things, those will be made available as well. At the rapid pace of product enhancement that we're well known for. Can Tyga access and use old data we already have in databases and use that in conjunction with new data? Yes. So with historical data, whether it be transactional or inventory or price book, across all those data sources, if you have historical sources that are outside of, say, your point of sale, back office, or whatever, and other databases that you've been carefully keeping over time, we can certainly backfill that information in there so that you also have that full historical context of that. That's something that we would definitely work out with you during the discovery process and implementation, to make sure that you would have your historical information included. Oh, great. So another one for you, Slaton. So can you talk a little more about how StoreKeep helped you do remote management better? Did it cut down on travel to stores? What ways did you spoke about the remote category manager, but what other ways did it help you operate remotely more often?
Yeah, I saw that question and was excited by it. The first part of it, as far as how does it help me remote manage the stores better, it's night and day in that regard for me. Some things, you still have to know what your category set is. So, it's still helpful to understand where product is placed in your store. So it doesn't totally eliminate the need for, whether or not you have planograms drawn out that you've got access to, or you need to be in the store. So I don't see this as a tool that completely replaces my need to ever be in the stores, but I would still find a tremendous amount of value, and I do still. I've pulled it up on my phone before and a tablet to be able to walk around the stores, look at the product, look at the set, understand where it's positioned, within our store, to get a better idea of what that positioning is doing to the product. So I can sit there in real time and pull up how are my Snickers king size performing, and understand how that is affecting it based on where it's being placed in the store. So it has not cut down on travel to stores for me. I wouldn't say that, but it has made me a much better remote manager for sure. We have some stores that are upwards of 90 miles away. So it has taken the need for me to remotely dial into stores between the hours of 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. when I can get in there and not impact the manager, and make sense of what's happening. So can't say it has helped cut down on travel to stores, but when I do travel to stores, it just arms me with that much more information to better understand what's going on inside when I'm there, and can look at it with Tyga as a resource.
So we're coming up on time here. So I just wanted to ask you one last question here before we end the Q&A session, so that everybody can get back to their busy days. Would you be more comfortable now in an acquisition of a new store or group of new stores, knowing that you have Tyga and knowing the ease of our installation and working with the different technologies, even if it was different in those stores?
Yeah, absolutely. I can see this being a really useful tool in those situations where you don't have a lot of local knowledge, especially if we were looking to buy in another market that I wasn't super familiar with. Instead of being able to lean on personal experiences in that store, I could really paint a pretty clear picture of what's happening in that store. Like you said, when products are selling, what pumps are being used the most, what registers are being used the most, understanding busy times of the day. So I would feel much more comfortable It'd be great if there was a way to have Tyga in the store before we made the acquisition or the purchase. That would be really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that one of the first things I would do is try to get Tyga installed at those stores 100%, so that I could start understanding what was going on in that particular location. So yeah, it would make me feel much more comfortable, and I think, shoot me maybe 6 months into the future if I didn't have it with understanding that store.
Well, I think we probably should just wrap up here at this point. And thank you so much, Slaton, for taking the time to talk with us and everyone today. Thank you all to all the attendees for coming. I hope you all really enjoyed the presentation and our discussion today. We will be sending out follow-up emails with the video if you want to share it with other folks within your organization or friends and family or whoever. If you'd like to learn more about Tyga, please visit us at taigadata.com. And also, if you look down in the bottom left of the presentation, there's a little button down there that says request a demonstration. If you'd like to have a demonstration of our products and services, please just feel free to click on that and reach out, and we'd be happy to schedule a demonstration with you to show you all the things we can do to help you. All right. Well, thanks again, Slaton.
Yeah, thank you.
I think
everybody for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.